Turning now to Canada, where King Charles just finished giving a rare address to Parliament. Keep in mind, this is highly unusual for a king to deliver this speech himself. The honor is typically reserved for the king's representative in Canada who speaks on his behalf. The last time we saw a monarch personally give this address themselves was back in 1977 when Queen Elizabeth II was on the throne. King Charles delivered some of his speech in French. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
The government's overarching goal, its core mission, is to build the strongest economy in the G7. That starts with creating one Canadian economy out of 13. Internal barriers to trade and labour mobility cost Canada as much as $200 billion each year. The government will introduce legislation to remove all remaining federal barriers to internal trade and labour mobility by Canada Day.
On that note, let's bring in Chief North American Correspondent for the BBC News, Gary O'Donoghue. Gary, thanks for joining us today. This is a very unusual gesture from a monarch. What is behind this decision?
Well, I think this visit was designed to send a very clear message. This is only the third time the British monarch has given this speech from the throne in the Canadian Parliament. His mother did it twice, but the last time was 1977. And this comes, of course, against the backdrop of a lot of a war of words, really, between Canada and the United States, not just on trade tariffs, but also the president's provocative words since the election on making Canada the 51st state, taking over Canada, making the Prime Minister the Governor of Canada, all that kind of thing. And the King, I think, is here as a sort of reminder perhaps to Canadians and the wider world and to the White House that Canada is run in a different way. It has a different kind of constitution. It has a different history in many ways, and that it is determined to hang on to its sovereignty. So when you heard there the King talking about the internal barriers to trade in Canada and getting rid of those, he also in the speech talked about the Canadian government wanting to build reliable relationships with trading partners around the world. That word reliable, I think, was taking a lot of strain because it came just after a paragraph where he talked specifically about the Prime Minister here, Mark Carney, and the President in Washington, Donald Trump, trying to get to a new security and trade arrangement based on mutual respect and common interests. But the double track, if you like, of parallel relationships with reliable trading partners around the world was also an indication of what he termed the anxiety and the uncertainty that Canadians are suffering. So no direct criticism of Donald Trump, no direct criticism of the White House, but some messaging around the fact that Canada is determined to hang on to its self-determination, as the King put it, and that it is also looking elsewhere for countries, groups of countries to deal with. Because at the moment, of course, Canada is absolutely reliant on its trade with the US and cannot afford a full-scale tariff war.
Yeah. And Gary, I think you just mentioned some of them, but what other government priorities did King Charles lay out in his speech?
Well, they're mainly economic priorities, as you can imagine. There's a lot of uncertainty on the cost of living here. There's a lot of reforms that Mark Carney wants to bring in. He's a former central banker, don't forget. He ran the central bank here. He also ran the central bank in Britain as well for a number of years. And it's those economic reforms that he's trying to bring in. Make sure there's more houses built in particular, change the nature of the economy, find new markets. Also talking about securing Canada's borders, which of course is a very common theme now, not just here in North America, but across Europe as well. So those are going to be the key priorities. And bear in mind, this particular session of the Canadian Parliament is only going to last for about 3 or 4 weeks during June. So there's quite a lot to get done. And it is worth remembering that despite the fact that Mike Carney's victory in the general election here was a surprise, he still only has a minority government in Parliament, a minority of the seats, which means he has to cooperate with other parties, and that can make things difficult.
Yeah. Okay, Chief North American Correspondent for the BBC News, Gary O'Donoghue, thank you so much for your insight today.